Hi YouTube peeps! You may have noticed I've taken a hiatus on YouTube. I'm so grateful to all my new subscribers and the subscribers that have stuck with me. The reason for my absence is that my house burned down, I got married, hence the last name change, and my husband got spine surgery all within 4 months. I'm slowly replacing all my YouTube equipment and I'll be back to my regular Charleston real estate content soon, but since I already have a platform for real estate, I wanted to talk about our experience of our house burning down and turn it into something positive by sharing what we've learned. My husband and I have learned so much through this process that I wouldn't have known before, so if I can help even just one person be more prepared in the event that an emergency like this happens to them, it would be worth it. First, I'll talk about what happened, then I'll give my top tips to make sure you're prepared, because no one ever thinks something like this is going to happen to them until it does. So, on April 9th at 10 p.m., my husband and I were at the Windjammer on Isle of Palms when I got the calls from my neighbor that our house was burning down. She quickly followed it up with the fact that the firefighters had already saved our dog and my pet tortoise, so that was a huge relief. It's hard to comprehend how fast your life can change in an instant like that, so we just got there as fast as we could, in shock the whole time. By the time we got there were like 10 fire trucks and the amazing firefighters had put out the fire. We are so grateful that our neighbor noticed when she did and called 911 right away, and that other neighbors were there to help. There were so many people that showed us overwhelming kindness and generosity in the aftermath, and we were so thankful to every single person who helped us, from helping us salvage what was left, donating clothes and hard-earned money, and sending us their love and kind words. Extra thank you to my parents who, without hesitation, let us move in with them while the house is rebuilt, and they've done so much for us since. Honestly, I cried more at the overwhelming kindness people showed us more than what we actually lost, and we're so grateful for this amazing community of friends, family, and complete strangers who made that time a whole lot easier. Anyway, so in the following days, we met with a deputy fire marshal who basically interviewed us on what we had in our house, and they did their whole investigation to find out what caused the fire. It was really interesting to learn how they determine the causes of fires. Ours ended up being what they called a textbook definition case of a backstabbed outlet gone wrong. I'll briefly try to explain what a backstabbed outlet is, but in my video next week, you'll hear the explanation from the deputy fire marshal himself. So, a backstabbed outlet is where a lazy electrician wires the outlet by putting the copper wire directly into the plastic outlet instead of properly wiring it on the terminals outside of the outlet. This isn't even against code or illegal, it's just a way electricians save time building houses and was really common when this house was built in the 70s. Over time, the springs that hold the wire into place lose their strength, causing a major hazard as the hot wire arcs to meet the sides of the outlet and it just gets out of control. The only way we could have known is if we had taken the cover plates off of each outlet to see where they were wired, which is not done during a normal home inspection, and we could have had them rewired. Going forward, I'll definitely be extra careful about any electrical issues for me and my clients. When in doubt, always hire a licensed electrician to make sure work was done right. It was kind of a relief to know that it was out of our control and not something we did, but it definitely doesn't help the headache of dealing with insurance in the rebuild process. This is where I want to help people be prepared for any sort of emergency, because we were lucky to have good insurance in place, but some people are less fortunate, and I don't want that to be you. So here are my tips for being prepared for any sort of emergency, specifically fire. So my first tip, of course, is to make sure you have good insurance coverage. When looking at policies, don't just pick the cheapest one or the biggest name brand. See what they actually cover in the case of a loss and read the fine print. Also, if you purchased your house years ago, please recheck your insurance policy to see what you're covered for. The cost of building has gone up substantially, so make sure your policy limits would actually cover a rebuild or repair with current construction costs and inflation. I heard a story about an older lady whose house burned down and she hadn't raised her insurance premium over the 20+ years she lived there, so she couldn't rebuild her house for anywhere near what insurance had her covered for. With our house, my husband owned it for 3 years, and even then the rebuild is getting pretty close to our policy limit and it's going to be a little tight. My next tip along the same lines is to make sure you have personal property insurance so that your items are covered. It doesn't cost too much to add to the policy, but luckily my husband had it, and so we do get some coverage for our personal property like our furniture and valuables that were lost in the fire. Of course, it's insurance, so they'll still try to fight you on what they'll pay and they'll depreciate everything you had in their spreadsheets, but still, it's much better than not having it at all, and I can't recommend it enough. And that goes for renters too. Alright, third tip is to check your electrical panel and outlets by a licensed electrician routinely. If your panel looks like spaghetti inside and the breakers have been messed with over the years, it's a good sign that your house's electricity might need work. An electrician can also see if your outlets have been backstabbed like ours were or improperly wired in other ways. It obviously costs money to have your panel and outlets rewired, but if I could go back and have our whole house rewired to prevent it burning down, I definitely would have. My next tip is to take photos and videos of your house every 6 months or after any major purchase. Personal property insurance will try to pay as little as possible, and you will have to prove ownership and the cost of everything you owned. If we had gone in and recorded a video or had photos of all our stuff, we wouldn't have to try to remember everything, where we got it from, etc. Of course, receipts were burned in the fire too, so that's why I wish we had it all in iCloud Photos. On a similar note, my next tip is to take photos of sentimental items so you can still see them if something ever were to happen. I wish I had taken pictures of all the baby photos, letters from loved ones, paintings, and other things so at least we could still see them and remember them. Last tip on a deeper note, and something that I always try to aspire to, but I had to really set in stone after the fire, is to remember that life is about people, not things. I remind myself of this when I think about all that was lost. The worst part was definitely losing sentimental items and our pet fish, but life goes on, and the most important thing is that my family was okay and no one got hurt. You don't take anything with you when you die, so the most important thing is the relationships in your life, and for that we are so lucky and grateful. If you made it through this kind of sad video, thank you for watching, and I really do hope you'll listen to these tips, but I hope that nothing happens to you like this. Next week is actually Fire Safety Prevention Week, so I'll be posting my interview with Charleston's Deputy Fire Marshal Rick Flugie, where he shares lots of interesting and important information on fire safety, so please be out on the lookout for that, and then some more fun Charleston content again.